Hello, everybody. Whoa, look at that. Holy crap. I see a
Ooh,
Sword Compass. I see a Craig. I see a Sir Isaac. I see Girk. Lots of people in the chat already.
Yeah,
Welcome, welcome.
uh-oh, that's trouble.
that is
That's
trouble.
a good
But we,
crew.
but we wouldn't have it any other way.
That's right.
Commander Root, Ice Wizards. We got now wizards, wizards. I don't know. It's spelled with an E.
That's right. Uh, well, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the interview. Here in a moment, in a couple minutes, we'll dive right into the recording. We've got James and Joe from Ghostfire Gaming with us this evening,
Yeah.
and we're super excited to have them. So, um, James, Joe, we like to give like a couple minutes for people to pop in and get settled into the stream before we start the interview. And before we do that, what we typically do is we just chat about a random topic for a couple moments. And typically that random topic is, what have you guys been watching lately? What's something non D&D related that's been on your viewing screens?
I'm embarrassed to admit I am one episode away from having watched the end of the latest Stranger Things, which is very frustrating because we've got a Slack chat in at the company, and I can't look in at it yet because they've been chatting about all the stuff that's been going on, and I'm
Joe,
Ooh.
so close.
I'm right there with you. I'm only on episode 4. I've been waiting because generally speaking, that for that show, the past 3 seasons, my daughter and my mother and I have all watched together. Try to keep kind of like a family thing on
Mm.
Sundays.
Family horror is a
And
good thing.
yeah, and
This family that screams
unbeknownst to me,
together stays together.
yeah, it stays
Something.
together, yeah, or runs away and whatever. But my daughter, unbeknownst to me, has abandoned me for her boyfriend, who has never watched Stranger Things,
Mm.
and yeah, she didn't say anything, so they're he's trying to get caught up so they can watch this season. And here,
Mm.
this whole time we've been waiting, and it's like, oh, you don't have to wait. It's like,
You're not gonna watch it with the boyfriend, Troy? Just you kind of in the middle of the couch and
yeah,
That sounds
that was it.
cozy.
two on either
Kind of
side.
just kind of do the whole
Yeah.
yeah.
Leave room for Vecna. Yeah.
Yeah, leave room for Vecna. Always leave room for Vecna. Oh,
Awesome. Well, that's good. Well, we'll have plenty to talk about, Joe, once you and Troy catch up
yeah.
there. It's a good season. James, what about you? What anything on your watching radar?
Well, I am caught up on Stranger Things,
Hey,
Zach.
awesome. I like you.
Oh man.
But no, actually, what I've been watching just an absolute ton of is classic Simpsons. I started with
Ooh,
season 1 a month or two ago, and I binged my way up to nearly the end of season 6.
wow.
And
Wow.
I'm kind of shocked by how good it is. I haven't seen any of The Simpsons in a long time, and I'm just shocked by how legitimately heartfelt and laugh a second some of those early episodes are.
That's good.
Oh
That's
yeah.
good. Man, that's an endeavor though. I mean, is your
Oh
intent to
yeah.
like meander your way back up to current, or is it?
No, I'm probably gonna call it quits around season 8 or 9, which
Hmm,
is where I hear the drop off in quality really starts to show its colors.
hmm, hmm. That's still that's
I
Gotcha.
that's
wouldn't call
quite a
myself a
run.
Simpsons mega fan. I just kind of wanted something funny to watch, and I accidentally became incredibly invested.
I
Nice.
hear that. I hear that. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just finished up at my house. We just finished up season 3 of Umbrella Academy, and we are
Mm.
now a few episodes deep into The Bear over on Hulu. So,
Now that I've heard
Little
very good things about.
I finished The Bear last night, and it is amazing. If anybody has ever worked in the service industry in a restaurant, especially in a nice restaurant or a hole in the wall restaurant, I told Zach you will have Vietnam PTSD flashbacks.
mm,
of
What
your
platform's that on?
Hulu.
Hulu.
Oh, okay.
It's a FX show if you have
Yeah.
FX somewhere.
Man,
No,
so good.
it is good.
So
Cool. All right. Well, we have officially given the chat a few extra minutes. Chat, if you're having a hard time hearing one or more of us, now is a great time to say that. But it looks like we're all doing good on my end.
I was gonna
So
say we should be fine because
uh,
John's not here.
John's not here, so smooth sailing. Uh, all right. Well, here we go then. We're going to start the recording. Like I said, we'll do about a 30, 40-minute recording. We'll see how it goes. And that'll be it for this evening. So, chat, sometimes we do 2 episodes on a Sunday. Tonight, you're going to get the one. So, uh, we
But
appreciate
it'll
you
be
hanging out.
so darn good.
You know,
It will be.
one for the price of 2, really, is and a value even at that. Yeah. All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Geeks Cant, the home of RPG goodness and general tomfoolery. My name is Zach, and the host joining me this evening is the mayor of Fort Wayne, Troy Sandlin.
Avast, ye hearties.
Oh, beautiful. Right on cue, right on theme. We're also joined by 2 very special guests, 2 members of the Ghostfire Gaming crew. We have friend of the show, I think you're in the upper echelon now of returning
Ooh.
guests, Master Joe Raso.
I just want to know when I get the jacket.
Oh, well,
We're working on that.
that's right.
We're working on that.
Yeah, ask us again in 2 years. And then, hey, uh, another friend of ours, but someone who is making his debut on the show, Master James Haeck. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure to be here for the very first time in these hallowed halls.
That's
Oh,
right.
I like
That's
this
right.
guy. I like this guy.
Hallowed
Hallowed
halls.
Halls feels
Oof.
good. Feels right.
Yeah, Joe just asked for a jacket. I mean,
Hmm.
Joe doesn't have to make a good first impression anymore.
Oh.
Yes.
fair,
Once you make a bad first impression, it's just everything's uphill. Yeah.
fair point.
Downhill.
Fair point.
One of the hills.
That's
One
right.
of the hills. All the hills.
Well, if you've been listening to this show or watching this show for long at all, you've probably seen Joe hanging out in our chat or popping on with a guest here or there. And we've done some work together in the past, so I think everybody should be pretty familiar with that face. James, I'm going to give you an opportunity here in a moment, and I guess we'll let Joe do the same just in case. But I'll give you, James, a moment to kind of tell us who you are, what you're about, and things like that. But before we do that, I thought I might like give a little connective tissue. James, I think we met, you, Troy, and I met. And actually, Troy, you and I kind of connected for one of the first times there as
Yep.
well at a D&D Beyond event down in Alabama.
Yes.
And
That is very
it's been
true.
a long time since then. The world's halfway burned to the ground, uh, and slowly started to maybe rebuild itself back together. And you've done some crazy things since then. It's been wild.
It has been wild since I saw you in Huntsville, Alabama, and well, it must have been 2019. Uh, the world has changed dramatically. Um, uh, yeah, it's so good to see you again. Just first, just right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you and I don't know if you remember this at all, but you and I left at the same time and ended up with a little while to kill at the airport. And so we had a lovely chat over a lunch. And I left that and I called somebody after, I think my wife after. I'm like, this James guy, he's okay. Like, I don't like him. He's a good conversation. So
You're really sweet to say it. You know, I have a terrible memory, especially in airports.
yeah,
But but now you mention it, it is all coming back to me. That was a really wonderful chat. I didn't even put the puzzle pieces together until you mentioned it just here that the two of you were people that I had met before back in Huntsville. But it's great to finally bring that sort of like a bit of the before times back into
Yeah.
the present day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, imagine a world where we all hung out for hours with strangers in hotels and random buildings and on street corners and in restaurants with no masks and no real precautions. Um,
That can't be right.
that it seems like a dream, uh, but it was real. It was real. I know it. So yeah, so
Mm.
that's kind of the loose connective tissue, and then Joe has kind of helped refuse that tissue in recent times. But James, what's been going on in your world, and who are you? How might people know you?
Yes, so hello, my name is James Haeck. I'm one of the senior game designers at Ghostfire Gaming. Previously head of Fables, a noble mantle that Joe has now taken up as I begin to handle other projects within the Ghostfire sphere, ones that are not yet ready to be revealed to the world.
Ooh.
Um, since I last saw you in Huntsville, I left D&D Beyond. I joined up with Ghostfire. I wrapped up a project or two with Critical Role, the Tal'Dorei campaign setting Reborn, and Call of the Netherdeep.
Hmm.
And generally, since that uh, unholy blitz of busyness, I've just been trying to settle into the new role here at Ghostfire and keep creating really, really fun new 5e stuff. Hopefully, 5e stuff, the likes of which you've never seen before. It's always my
Ooh,
goal.
that's
I like
delicious.
that.
Yeah, so people from chat are already firing off a couple questions, so we'll cover those as we start to get into this. Chat, Fables is, well, I maybe should let one of you two Yahoos tell us what Fables is. Yeah, James, so you mentioned it, what is Fables?
Yes, Fables is an ongoing episodic 5e adventure path. It began earlier this year with its first release, Citadel of the Unseen Sun, which is set in Ghostfire's dark fantasy flagship setting, Grim Hollow. Dark
Hmm.
Fantasy 5th edition. Uh, the stakes are high, the danger is high, the morals are gray, and things get out of control very quickly as you try to escape from essentially a false underworld and claw your way back
Hmm.
to the blighted lands above. So grim and dark and juicy. And following that up, it was really a goal to move Fables into brand new worlds and kind of travel uh, gently from one world to another and give you something new every single time as we tell this episodic story. And the second venture with which I began and which Joe and I collaborated with to bring home after the manuscript was set is called Pirates of the Ethereal Expanse, and it's high fantasy, high magic piracy, Age of Sail piracy,
Mm.
set in the astral plane upon a sea of starlight. And we pulled out all the stops with this. Joe, who has been shepherding it basically to through to its releases right now, can tell you better than anyone that every pirate trope that we love, that we hold dear to our hearts, uh, is here in full force with an extra helping of magic, all dialed up to 11.
And the production on it is just glorious. Zoe, what was Zoe's last name? I always forget
Zoe
last names.
Robinson.
Yeah, so she was the art director who did the initial work on the effort, and now Marius is taking over the final bits of production. But just the art is astounding. What we should have done, maybe in the chat, the trailer, James, if you can
Ooh.
get a link to
Oh yeah.
our trailer, it's just phenomenal. If you don't want to
Hey,
play a
say no
game of
more. I can,
pirates, after seeing that trailer,
you're wrong.
I don't know what you're doing.
You know what? You know what we could do, Joe?
I'm on it. Post haste.
We could watch that trailer right now,
Ooh, woo.
live if we
Hmm.
wanted to, for our Twitch audience and our podcast audience. Um, Troy would have to figure that out. So, Hey, Troy, I'm giving you a job.
Hey,
Well, hey, podcast audience will have an absolute auditory treat
Ooh.
because this trailer is scored by top-notch musician. Uh, oh shoot, I suddenly blanked on his name. Colin. All I can think of is Broadway singer Colin Wilkinson. Joe, help me out on this one.
Yeah,
This
I'm
is
gonna fail
embarrassing.
you because I'm the worst person with names. I can describe everything about a person, but their actual name, the label that sticks on, never.
Colin McGinnis.
That's right.
Mm.
My apologies, Colin.
Well, yeah, let's do it. Let's you know what? Like I said, this is very much a laid back show, so why not just insert a video in the middle of it? That seems
Let's
about
do it.
right. All right, so I'm
sure.
going to transition us over, and then I'm going to hit the play button, and we'll hope it doesn't blow out your ears. Here, I'll turn it down.
Well met, traveller. Would you care to hear a fable? One of empires, a sea of starlight, and pirates. See, I know a ship in need of a captain. That might just be you. Will you roll the dice? For glory and measures of gold, with a crew of marauders, the brave and the bold. You'll always have a place in the island, the drakes, and we'll be at your back when your life is at stake. We're bound to know empire will rain down with hellfire. We have room in the brig if you'd please be our guest. We don't throw in with factions, we have but one attraction, and it's take what we want and we'll hang all the rest. Hold fast, we'll cling to the mast, and we'll fight back the Irish till we're down to the last. For the Carolines plunder, we'll throw them asunder, for we hoist up the sails and this outward we cast. In the call of the ether and the treasure beneath her, take our share of the loot and good fortune and fame. When usurpers make trouble, we'll reduce them to rubble. Raise our flag and make them all remember your name. Hey ho, through the waves or the maelstrom, you will find the crew is strong, the brave is at stake. Now look for the gallows, for the starry sea swallows, all the wreckage of ships that we leave in our wake. So what'll it be, Captain? You looking for a crew?
Wow, Joe, you were a part of that?
I was in scene 2.
I was in scene two.
That's incredible.
Oh,
That was a
man.
great trailer.
Magnificent, isn't it? You'll have heard Colin's work before on Critical Role. He's scored their mid roll and was a part of their recent um, album that their background music album that they released on Spotify and YouTube Music and such. He's fantastic, and I feel really grateful we were able to get him to do that. Paul Duffield, also our animator, absolutely fantastic. All using illustrations from within the series. And animated to remarkable effect. I think I love the bit where the music times with the cannons firing, dun 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 dun. So good.
Well,
Yeah.
while that was playing, I subscribed.
Wow.
There you go. There you go. It's that easy.
It's that easy.
That's amazing. So yeah, so we knew we were going to come on and we were going to talk about Ghostfire and we were going to talk about Fables. But I didn't know that I guess I should have assumed, but I didn't know that we were going to talk about this setting to a degree. And I am now fascinated. So is it you said you kind of needed a way or wanted a way to transition from world to world or place to place. You started out in this the Grim Hollow setting. Is this Pirates of the Ethereal Expanse kind of the thing that you're introducing to bridge the gaps between future settings, or is it kind of its own unique thing, or what's your vision for pirates moving forward?
It's a good question. Right. Pirates of the Early Expanse has nothing directly linking it to Citadel.
Mm.
It's a clean break and a fresh start. Um, now that Joe's leading the charge, um, his creative vision is paramount,
Mm.
and he is leading Fables 3 as we speak, and um, I don't feel as if it's my place to say anything more on that matter.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're gonna go yet because actually I owe Phil some Phil's my boss, Phil Beckwith, sort of a direction of what Fables 4 is going to be, because we have to start thinking and prepping for that, and there's a sort of a bunch of ideas that we have in play. I think we want to explore some of the worlds that Ghostfire has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I suspect we'll cherry pick different bits of the products that we have on the go as it is. I will say that for Fables 3, which will release in January, there's a tenuous connection to Fables 2. Not at all required to play Fables 3, but it's a sort of an interesting twist on how the story goes. But I'll leave sort of bits of where Fables 3 goes um, till later. I'm actually with Sean Merwin and I are going to be running some early releases of it at Gamehole Con, so
Ooh.
maybe I'll be able to chat more at that time.
Very cool. So the whole Fables thing is that do they start at level 1 and take you through, or does like season 2, does it start at a different level than 1?
So right now, so the first Fable went from, sorry, first episode started at 1 and it ended at, was it 12 or 13, James?
Yeah, I think of Pirates, it goes from 1 to 13 over the course
Oh,
of 6 episodes, and Citadel of the Unseen Sun, our very first Fable release from earlier this year, did the same. But don't necessarily think that that's the only way it can be.
Mm.
Because I might be doing something a little bit different in Fables 3. We're still
Yes.
hammering down the bits of it. But generally speaking, the idea is you'll start at a lower level and you'll progress through a 6-part storyline to get to the finale of the series. I think the original pitch, I wasn't with Ghostfire at the time, was to harken back to uh, the old the adventure paths from the Dungeon
Mm-hmm.
magazine, and
mm,
the sort of same thing that Paizo does with their big adventure streams that they continue to do. So kind of offering a story in 6 parts that GMs at their home table can carry through. But each episode should be sort of runnable by itself to
Mm.
an extent. Like it's a complete story. So there should be on ramps at each episode if players want to come in midstream. But I think the best way to do it is definitely from episode 1.
Pirates is a really interesting case, too, especially when compared with Citadel, which came before it. Because Citadel absolutely is a straightforward, rather linear story. Not to say there's not a lot of choice for player agency and choice in that one, but the story does progress from beat to beat to beat in a fairly straightforward fashion. Fables 2 is much more of an open world. By necessity, we have to present it as 6 consecutive episodes, and those episodes do sort of advance in level as they go on. But the very first episode is basically a one-shot adventure, whereas future episodes are 80 pages of adventure, easily 4 weeks, maybe more. Episode 1 is a one-shot, but also a campaign guide and a set of new rules for ship combat, a mini campaign guide for the Ethereal Expanse, and then brand new mechanics that will permeate the rest of the fable. And while those additions will be useful for episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, really what my hope is that game masters and players alike will seize upon these uh, new rules and setting content to create their own adventures and weave them into the larger narrative tapestry of the fable itself. Because this is pirates, and you have your own boat, and you're on the ocean. Who are we as the writers to say you must go from island A to B to C, etc., etc.? There's no track that wants you to go that way. We've provided a certain uh, idea of the way the adventure will go,
Yeah.
but it's incredibly easy to start it at episode 3 and give a little context, or if the players go all the way to Wind Crown instead of to the Isle of Drakes, then well, you can take episode 2 and bash it apart and repurpose it and fit the pieces back together in the way that game masters have since time immemorial. And we want to make it easy for you to do that.
That's fantastic.
So I know that a lot of our audience has some understanding of the Fables line and the idea of a subscription service for adventure content. But there's always going to be somebody who's tuning into this stream or checking out the podcast, and they have never heard of Fables before. And this all sounds cool to them. And I know if we don't cover this here, we'll get a question later. So somebody gets juiced like Troy did from watching that trailer, and they're like, yes, sign me up for Fables. What do you recommend? Do they go back and is there a way for them to snag season one, or do they dive into this current season, or do they wait for the next start of the next, or how do you recommend or envision that process happening?
It is a monthly subscription, but every past episode is available in the Ghostfire Gaming shop. It's cheaper for you if you subscribe monthly,
Mm.
but you can absolutely pick up each individual adventure, and that comes with everything that you would get if you subscribed: all of the maps, all of the tokens. Back in early development of Fables as a concept, we like to talk about it as a Blue Apron box for GMing,
Yes.
where we would give you all of the ingredients that you needed to run what was in the book. If you wanted to go outside of what we've written in the adventure, you were free to. But that's why we release a whole bunch of tokens and maps and everything that's in there as their own individual entities. So if you want to play on virtual tabletop or something like that, you absolutely can.
Yeah, I think the intent for each episode is it should keep your home table busy for a month. So if you meet once a week for 4 weeks, it's about 3 or 4 hours each. So each, hopefully, we've designed each episode so it will last you that month, and then the next episode will show up just in time to dive in at the following month.
And if you ask me, I think we gave you a little bit more than we promised. Yeah, I think each month will last you about 5 or 6 weeks.
Well, if you
It's
talk
a bargain.
with my gaming group, each episode would be about 6 months, but that's
That's man, I'm just every time you say something, I comes up with another question, but that's good, I guess. So I was thinking about the fact that the first season, I'm a person who, if and when I dive into this, I'm going to start at the beginning, and the
Mhm.
appeal of this beginning is doubly so for me because you mentioned that it is tied in and is part of your Grim Hollow uh, uh, flagship line, right? Um, Now, Grim Hollow has other access points to it, and some of the other books that are released. Was that season something that, like, if somebody's already played through content that was produced for Grim Hollow, that this is a continuation, or is it kind of on its own space in the world, or what can we imagine if somebody's already familiar with Grim Hollow and they want to pick up the season?
Yeah. This first Fable, it's not a sequel to anything,
Mm,
but it is rooted in the world of Grim Hollow, and it will provide people who are familiar with the campaign guide something new as well. So if you've never heard of Grim Hollow before, right, again, it's a dark fantasy 5e setting. And Ghostfire Gaming has 3 books for it at present. The first is a campaign guide, which is much focused at game masters. It's our oldest product. It's the first one. It's one that launched Ghostfire Gaming,
hmm
and we're basically always trying to improve upon everything that was set as foundation there. Um, Following that was a player's guide, which includes races and classes that are suitable for the dark fantasy setting. And finally, very recently released after a tremendous $1 million Kickstarter, is the Monster Grimoire, which is a 400 some page monster book, many of which actually debuted in that fable. There were
Mm.
quite a few monsters that appeared in that fable before they showed up in the Monster Grimoire.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, and our pal Sean Merwin and his team knocked it out of the dang park.
Mm.
But after listing off all those books, I would say if you want to just jump in with Fables, I would recommend you get the campaign guide and you read up about the region of Ostoya. Ostoya is a land shrouded in permanent darkness and ruled by vampires in a gothic and bloody fashion. And that is just such a delicious bit of dark fantasy. We couldn't resist setting our first big adventure there. And we took what's there in the campaign guide, we built it out. In the 5th episode, we show you the city of Gargoyles itself, a massive metropolis ruled by vampires at the top, and at the bottom of which the weak blooded humans scrabble for scraps as they are preyed upon by the overlords. Tremendous little place. I have my summer home there. Uh, and the other episodes delve into new material, stuff that we think is in fitting with the grim and yet somewhat darkly whimsical nature of Grim Hollow. But that, if your players have memorized the campaign guide, will catch them completely off guard.
Mm.
Very cool.
Fascinating. Okay, so cool. So we've got Grim Hollow, we've got that. I know, and like you said, James, you've kind of moved on from Fables and taken a new role that we can't really talk about yet in the Ghostfire Gaming atmosphere. At least not the project that you're currently working on there. But Joe, you got these reins handed to you several months ago, and I told you that I was going to pitch you a few curveballs here.
Oh,
Um, and so here we go, I guess. But no, so I'm curious, as someone who is stepping in as a project lead on something that has an established process, um, uh, is there things when you took over Fables, are there things about Fables that you imagine you're going to transition or do a bit different? Are there things that where's the Joe stamp going to be on Fables, and how can we avoid it? That's really where we're.
well, I've got a Sharpie and I've been scratching Master Haeck's name off of everything that I could find. So,
Okay,
and then
yeah.
scribbling, Joe did this really. Um, the coming in at the end is actually pretty great way to get introduced to the company, because I could see all the cool stuff that they'd done up to that point, and it was really me just helping polish the final bits as it goes into production to get the the material out
Hmm.
to the real world. Where I go with Fables, I think a lot of the stuff may be invisible to sort of the end consumer, because I
Mm.
think I'm going to be doing a lot of back end stuff. My previous real world life was in engineering and computer science, and so I love organizing and consolidating how we manage and produce things. And so one of the wonderful things about Ghostfires is we're brand new. Uh, well, 2 years brand new, and so we're growing like this, and we need to do internal systems to help us manage all the bits and pieces and get production going. The nice thing is we've been blessed with some pretty awesome writing talent helping us put all this material together. Um, the group I'm working with for Fables 3 is just fantastic, and the teams that Joey put together for 1 and 2 were uh, bang on perfect. So it, the magic of what I'm doing is really hopefully letting the writers that we bring on board shine, because
Mm.
we picked writers because we think they're good, and based on the material that comes out there, I think we're right. We picked pretty well in most cases.
Awesome.
Yeah, at least one writer from both the first and second Fable is already in the midst of working with either me or Joe on some project right now. I
Mm.
don't think that's too revealing to say. We like our writers a lot, and as long as their schedules are open to
Mhm.
us, we are eager to use them
That's really cool. We have a question from the chat.
Oh,
Um, what's it like to work with the Mad Wizard Merwin?
again.
mm.
Maddening.
There you go.
Easy. Done.
Easy done.
You could have solved that yourself, Craig.
Yeah, you could have figured that from the name.
Yeah. No, I know he's working. I know Sean's kind of been helming your monster grimoire over at Grim Hollow, but to give credit to Craig's question here, like uh, Sean is a beloved member of our community and a great talent. So yeah, have you guys? What would you say, having worked at least tangentially, parallel or side by side with Sean? What's been your experience with the Mad Wizard?
Well, I was lucky just a few weeks ago. I threw him a draft of some stuff that I'd written, and I got on a call. I still find it funny. I get to get on a call with these guys. So I got on a call with Master Merwin, and we're talking about D&D stuff. They're paying me to do D&D stuff. It was just his insights are really good. You
Yes.
know the guy understands the game and um, how to present the material for game masters in a way that makes sense. And often there are just really simple insights of, well, Joe, you do realize, and then he'd go on for some description of this, but always in a fantastically helpful way. Like, it's never a "what the hell did you do?" It was always a "oh, did you ever think about..." The amount of stuff I got out of a 15-20 minute call was amazing. And I know James has worked with him more, so I don't know if his experience is any different.
Sean is an incredibly humble and relatively soft spoken human who possesses incredible knowledge and experience within him. And yeah, I mean, just like Joe said, he's always very uh, polite and understanding when he presents critique. Um, and yeah, he's just great to work with. Sean and I are working together quite closely on something right now,
Hmm.
and it's delightful to when one thing is finished, pass it over to him. He's, oh, what do you think of this, Sean? He's like, oh, I think this, and it's yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. Sean is someone who I've wanted to work with for ages, and I'm
Hmm.
still second guessing myself a little bit when I'm like, oh wow, I actually get to do this now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Joe was gracious enough to let me tag along with him to some writing workshops that Sean did last year at GameholeCon, and yeah, they were incredible, and the highlight of that convention for me, certainly. So yeah. I also remember at a PAX South, back when there was a PAX South, um, getting to attend an Acquisitions Incorporated panel that
Mm.
Sean was one of the lead people, panelists on, and that was really fascinating. So there's a special spot in my heart for uh, Mad Wizard Merwin, especially at conventions.
Yeah, if you'll be at GameholeCon, Sean and I will be chatting on freelancing in the whole
That's right.
industry. So come say hi, avoid throwing tomatoes, that sort of thing.
I've got my ticket and my tomatoes already
Ooh.
purchased, so we're
So they'll be nice and ripe.
they'll be nice and ripe. Exactly right.
I,
Tickets.
I will not be there at GameholeCon, but
Mm,
fortunately, that just means I'll avoid the crossfire.
oh,
That's right.
that's
It's going to be like a Gallagher show. We're going to hand out plastic covers. So,
awesome. Well,
Uh,
yeah. What else, Joe?
I was just gonna sort of plug James. Is your October plans kind of set now for?
Yes, they are indeed.
So someone is flying to a southern hemisphere and might be at a convention that's going on there, I believe.
You mentioned PAX South. I regret very deeply that it doesn't exist anymore because my opportunity to get all of the PAXs is now no longer possible.
Yeah.
But this October, I will hit the last remaining PAX
Mm.
that exists. The vaunted, little known, mysterious PAX Australia.
Ooh.
fantastic. There you go, Greg.
Craig is from the Down Under here in chat, and
That's
Yes.
right.
he is always begrudges us our con experience and meetups here in the States. So Craig, here's your opportunity. Uh, go hang out at Melbourne with with James. That'd be awesome. Well, cool, awesome. Fellas, we've kept you now for about 40 minutes here. As we're getting to the tail end of this chat, I guess I'll start with you, Joe. Joe, is there anything that you want to make sure that you plug or bring up or point people to before we close out here?
No, just if you have a chance, go to the Ghostfire home site and check out the Fables series that you can pick up there. The production, the work that's gone into it, you can really tell when you open the first page of those PDFs. They're it made it easy to come on board when I looked at the material that they'd put together. So highly recommend folks go check it out.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome.
Very cool.
And James, anything on your end that you want to point to other than that?
Keep your eyes on the skies for the next thing the Ghostfire releases. You'll hear about it soon. TM.
Right on.
Who owns that trademark?
Yeah, it's
I
much
mean,
more of a publicly owned
I
at
was
this
gonna
point.
say.
Well,
Huh.
I'll say here, and well, Troy, do you have anything else? Anything else that you wanted to make
I
sure?
just want to say I have been a Ghostfire fan from the beginning. When I first saw the first Kickstarter for Grim Hollow,
Yep.
I'm like, yes, this speaks to me. And I have been purchasing and backing and pledging ever since. I jumped on Aurora. That sounded awesome. I somehow missed out on the first season or the first Fables.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to probably just if I can get them all at a convention, I'm just gonna snag them all at one time. Um, I've remedied that for this Fables, but yeah, I will be looking towards the sky, the internet, and everything else for whatever's coming out of Ghostfire.
Awesome. Yeah, and so I guess I'll wrap up with saying, super excited, like I said, to have James on, and honestly, in all seriousness, really excited about Joe working on Fables, for Joe for working on Fables, and I'm incredibly eager to see what Joe cooks up and puts out because Joe's one of my favorite people in the gaming sphere,
Oh,
and the fact that Ghostfire managed to snatch him up and put him in charge of something shows just how smart and awesome Ghostfire is, and I look forward to seeing what the collaboration brings out. So,
Yes, indeed.
well,
Mhm.
thanks, Zach.
yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna pretty much wrap us up for this interview. I will say, if you're tuning in, that we have several other interviews lining up. Um, we are gearing up for a Kansas City convention. We're gearing up for Gen Con. We're gearing up for, believe it or not, we're gearing up for a zine quest in August, right around
Wait,
the corner.
aren't they
Yeah.
February?
They're in, but this year you get it in August. So I don't know that we're gonna get to do like the 30-some computer interviews that we
Oh,
typically
come
do
on, we've
for.
got to.
Well, I was gonna say at least not until after Gen Con, but we're lining up
Well,
interviews already. So if you enjoyed this, if you enjoy our interviews in general, we're gonna have a lot more to come here in August. And then last but not least, I would encourage folks who are tuning into this live or listening to this on the podcast, this will also be available permanently on YouTube, along with our How to Play series and all sorts of things like that.
What? You didn't
Yeah.
say this was going to be permanent.
Well, now you know. So we only
Well,
say that at the end. Only if it
yeah.
reaches a certain quota, and then we're like, well, permanent. Yeah. So that's going to do it. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, James, for hanging out. Thanks to all the chat for hanging in there with us. Thanks to Troy for hosting this with me. And until next week, we'll see you next time.
Play great games,
cheers.
everybody.